All right, these are going to be my 2024-2025 bench player rankings for the NBA season. I'm going to say that this video is made before the NBA season actually starts, so some of the depth chart and stuff could be a little bit off by the time it does release. But let's get started here. I'm starting out with some honorable mentions here. You got Larry Nance, Jalen Wilson, Malik Beasley, Quentin Grimes, Royce O'Neal, Sadiq Bey, Jared McCain, Robert Williams, and Khalil Ware. All right. I'm not going to talk too much about each guy because there's a lot of guys to go over here. Starting out number 50 is going to be G.G. Jackson. He's supposed to be injured till December. He was a really solid player for the Grizzlies last year. I think he's going to be slightly worse because they have a whole bunch of other guys that are probably going to be healthy, hopefully. So he's going to have a smaller role, but he still had a really good year last year. I think he's a solid bench player. Number 49, T.J. McConnell. He was very good in the playoffs for Indiana. I think he's a solid role player. I don't think he's going to be quite as good as he was last season. His playoffs definitely helped him out quite a bit. 48, Paul Kabali. He had a solid year last year for the Wizards. I believe he was a rookie last year. I think so. So I think he's going to have a solid year this year, a little bit step up. The Wizards don't have much going for their team, so he definitely should have quite a bit of a role there, especially with Denny Avdia gone as well. Number 47, Peyton Pritchard. He was 47 last year. I think he's going to be just about the same type of player that he was. He might actually be a little bit better just because he's going to probably improve and get more rotational minutes, I think, this year. But overall, it's going to be around the same type of guy he was a year ago. 46, Donovan Clingan. He's a rookie. I think he's going to be a solid rookie here. He should be their primary backup center. Robert Williams is, I think, injured currently to start the season. Maybe not, but Robert Williams probably is going to be the third-string center, essentially. So Donovan Clingan should get quite a bit of work in this season. And I think he's going to be pretty good for the Blazers. Number 45, Leo Lake for the Raptors. He was good last year. I think he's going to be good this year, just kind of, again, slightly worse. He's getting older. I think they're going to try to lean more on their young guys rather than their veterans off the bench. So I think Kelly Olynyk is going to be a little bit worse than he was last season. Number 44, Miles McBride. He was really good last year, but again, his playoff stats kind of boosted him up quite a bit. If it wasn't for the playoffs, he probably would have been unranked last season. So the playoffs definitely raised his stock quite a bit, and I think that is the only reason that he's still on this list right now is because of how good he was in the playoffs last year. I don't think he's going to be quite that good in the regular season, but he's still going to be a good role player. Number 43 is going to be Russ Westbrook. He was 28 last year. I think he goes to the Nuggets. I think he thrives in this role, but I still don't think he's going to be, like one of the really good bench players, but he's going to be a really solid piece off the Nuggets bench. 42 is going to be the Pelicans. This guy could get a good amount of playing time. I don't really know how I feel about him, but I do think he's a solid player. He's a good player at Kentucky. I think he is good enough to get a good amount of playing time here. Maybe not in the start of the season, but towards the later half, he'll probably get a good amount of playing time, and I do think he's going to thrive in that role and be a really solid bench guy for the Pelicans. Number 41, Ayo Dosunmu from the Bulls. He's going to have a bigger role than he did last season. They're missing, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, stuff like that. I think Ayo Dosunmu is going to take a pretty big step up and be, a quality, really quality role player here this year. 40, Horford. He was 14 last year. I think he's definitely going to take a step down. Again, his playoff stats kind of boosted him up quite a bit. So I think in the regular season he's going to be certainly worse than he was in the playoffs. And I do think he's getting a year older. I think he's probably not going to play as many minutes as he did even last season, and he's going to fall down here quite a bit. But still, good role player. Number 39, Brandon Clark. He was injured most of last year. I think he's going to be really solid for the Grizzlies this year. 38, Isaac Okoro. He was 30 last year. He's going to be slightly worse, in my opinion. They have other guys that I think are going to kind of step up too. But he's still a pretty solid two-way guy and a really good three-point shooter for the Cavs. 37 is Keldon Johnson for the Spurs. I don't really think this guy's going to progress really at all from where he was a year ago. And they have a bunch of other guys on the roster now. Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, stuff like that. So he might not even have to have as big of a role as he did a year ago. And with that, I think he's going to slightly regress here. Number 36 is going to be Jonathan Isaac. He was number 11 last year. His per 36 numbers were amazing. His advanced numbers were amazing. And he was good in the playoffs as well. But overall, I don't have a very strong outlook on this guy because, again, if if his advanced numbers are elite like they were last year, he could get himself a lot higher on this list. But just his pure base statistics are not very good, comparatively to his advanced stats. 35, Trey Jones. I'm going to drop him quite a bit of spots here. The Spurs did get, Chris Paul, so he's going to lose his starting job. That's really what all this is about. He was a starter last year. He was number 26, but coming out off the bench now, he's going to have to, kind of take a lesser role there, but still a really solid bench player. 34 is going to be Grayson Allen. He was a starter last year. He's supposed to come off the bench this season. Because the Suns did get Tyus Jones to kind of take his place. But he's a really good sharpshooter off the bench for the Suns. 33, Isaiah Joe. He's a really good sharpshooter for the Thunder. I think he maybe is a little worse than last year because, again, they have better pieces. Alex Caruso, what's his name? Isaiah Hartenstein. So he's going to have a slightly lesser role probably for this offense, but still a really good bench player. 32, Jordan Clarkson. He had a pretty big step down last season from where he was the years before. I think he's going to take another small step down this year and be right around the 32 range. Still a really good bench player, but certainly not among the 6 men of the year conversations where he has been just a couple of seasons ago. 31, but he was 16 last year. He was really good in the postseason, I do believe, for the Sixers, but I don't really have a whole lot of faith in him on this Warriors team. He's going to be solid. I don't think he's going to be bad at all. I just don't think he's going to be, quite as good as he was last season, and he's going to still be a really solid shooter for the Warriors, but probably doesn't provide much outside of scoring. Number 30, Derek Lively. He was number 8 last year. I do think he takes kind of a step down. He was very good in the postseason, which kind of boosted his numbers up quite a bit. I still think he's going to be a very solid player for them. I just think he takes a step down from where he was in the postseason, and it gets him right around the 30-ish range. Number 29, Walker Kessler. I was pretty high on him last year, number 12. That felt like a pretty good ranking. I just don't feel like he's going to really progress this season. I think he might take a small step down. I can't really explain why I feel like that, but that's just kind of my gut instinct, is that he's not going to be as good as he was last year. So I'm going to drop him quite a bit of spots. Number 28, Mitchell Robinson. He's supposed to be injured till December. He was not ranked last year. He hardly played last year as well. But I do think if he plays, he's going to be a solid bench player here for the Knicks. Number 27, Rob Dillingham. I forgot his first name, whatever. Rob Dillingham for the Timberwolves. I think he's going to have a really solid year. He's a good scorer. He's a great scorer off the bench. It might take him a few months or so to get acclimated, but I do think he's going to be very, very effective once he does kind of get into the flow of the game. Number 26, Moses Moody. Is going to jump up quite a bit of spots from last season. I think he's going to take a pretty big leap. He's a really good player, a really good scorer, really good shooter, in my opinion. He's going to be really good for this Warriors team off the bench. 25, he was a shooting guard starting last year. He's going to be off the bench. He's going to be a really, really good bench player, really good scorer, but he does not provide much outside of scoring. But he is still a very good scorer in that aspect. Number 24, DeAndre Hunter. I think he's going to take a big leap from last year. He's going to kind of have to when they're missing DeJounte Murray and stuff. But I do think he's a very good two-way player. I think his offensive game takes a little bit of a step up this season, and he's still a really good defender as well. 23, Amen Thompson. He was only a rookie last year. He had kind of an underwhelming rookie season. Mainly, his three-point shooting was pretty poor. I do think he take a step up here in his efficiency, which is going to give him, a better ranking than last year. 22 is going to be Trey Murphy, who's 16 last year. I think he drops a couple of spots. They did get, DeJounte Murray. So just with that, his role could be diminished a little bit. Also, he's supposed to be injured, I believe, at least for a couple of weeks, maybe longer than that. Top, and he was number 7 last year, but that was, again, a lot of that was his postseason numbers. He was really good in the postseason. I don't think he's going to be quite as good in the regular season that he was in the playoffs last year, but still really good bench player here for Indiana. He fits that system perfectly. Number 20 is Lou Dort. He was a starting small forward last year. He was a solid starting small forward. He's going to be a really good bench player here at number 20 for the Thunder. Number 19 is going to be Reed Sheppard. He's a rookie, so obviously he was unranked last season. I'm really high on him. I think he's going to be among the tops of the Rookie of the Year voting. He might not win it, but still it's going to be above a lot of guys in that conversation. He's going to be a really good scorer here and shooter for the Rockets off the bench, I think. Number 18, Bruce Brown for the Raptors. He was 27th last year. I think he's going to be really good this year as well. maybe take a slight step up, just because I think he's going to be kind of more tuned in. Last year, it kind of felt like it felt to me like he wasn't really tuned into the Raptors because like he thought they were going to be a playoff team, and they kind of just weren't. So now this year they don't really have expectations, honestly. So I think he's going to be kind of more tuned in because of that. Because he's not going to be disappointed by the team. He's going to be like, okay, this is what we are. So he's going to try to, kind of just be able to relax a little bit and still play really, really well. Number 17, Duncan Robinson. He was 50th last year. Personally, last year was definitely a down year for him, so I think he's going to take a big leap this season, be maybe like a 16, 17 point per game scorer very, very efficiently for this Miami Heat team. Number 16, Dalton Knecht, unranked rookie. He was amazing in the preseason. I think he's going to be very good in the regular season as well. He's a sharpshooter. He's a good scorer, honestly, at all three levels. I think he's going to take a little bit to get acclimated, but I would not be surprised if he ends up taking a starting spot over a guy like Austin Reeves. I think he's a very, very good player. They have a similar play style, but I think Dalton Knecht very well is going to be on that trajectory this year. Number 15, he's an amazing scorer here for the Cavs off the bench. He's not just a scorer; he's a solid defender, good rebounder too. He's kind of a big body guard here, so he's a really solid player here for the Cavs. Number 14 is going to be Malcolm Brogdon, unranked last year. He didn't really play at all. He was injured too much. He's supposed to be injured this year until at least December. But I do think once he plays, he's going to be really good. He was really good, a couple years ago, and he was actually healthy. He was good last year, the limited time he did have. So I think for the Wizards here, it's going to be really solid for them. I could see him averaging 20 points per game when he plays. Number 13 is Cole Anthony for the Magic. I think he takes a little bit of a step up from last season. He's still young. Most of this Magic team is still young, so a lot of those guys are still going to be progressing. I think Cole Anthony is certainly one of those guys. He could easily be like an 18-point per game scorer off the bench here with like 7 assists and 6 or so rebounds, which are very, very good numbers. Number 12 is Stewart for the Pistons. He was a starter last year. He was a low-level starting power forward, but now he's going to be back at center off the bench. I think that definitely will help improve his game. He's not a power forward, okay? He's not the greatest shooter. He works better in the post primarily. So getting him back at center off the bench is going to improve his numbers already. And I do think, he's just going to naturally progress because he is still so young. Number 11, Herbert Jones. He was a good starting small forward last year, so he's going to be one of the best bench players in the league. This year, kind of just by default, basically. He's a really good two-way player here for the Pelicans. Number 10 is going to be Jaime Jaquez. He was 29 last year as a rookie. I think he progresses quite a bit here as a second-year player and gets to be one of the best bench players in the league. Number 9 is going to be Norman Powell. He was number 2 last year. I think he regresses slightly. The Clippers don't really have a whole lot of going for them with Kawhi's injury and stuff, so he still could very well be among the best, but he also might be getting quite a bit of starting time with Kawhi Leonard. With Kawhi Leonard not playing for however long he's going to be out, but still off the bench, he's still going to be one of the best scorers. Number 8 is going to be Benedict Mathurin. He's going to be kind of around the same type of player. I thought he was a top 10 bench player last year. A lot of people didn't agree with that. I think he's a very good player. He can easily average 20 points off the bench here for Indiana efficiently. Good rebounder, solid passer. He's a really, really good player. I love his game a lot. Number 7 is Monk. He's one of the best bench players of the last few years. Number 5 last year, in my opinion, I think it's going to maybe take a slight regression because they did get DeMar DeRozan, but still he's going to be very, very good for the Kings. Number 6, Dante DiVincenzo. He was number 12 as a starting shooting guard. He's coming off the bench now in Minnesota. But he's going to be one of the best. He should be one of the best bench players because he was a very good starting shooting guard last year. So easily should be one of the best bench players in the league. Number 5, Onyeka Okongwu. He was one of the best bench players last year. I think he's going to be right around the same type of guy this season. I personally think he should be starting over Clint Capella at this point in time, but that's just me. Number 4 is going to be Bobby Portis. Again, he's going to be right around the same type. He's been a top 5 bench player the last, probably 3 seasons. Now he's going to. I don't see any reason why he's not going to be in that same level this season. Number 3, Naz Reid. He was number 1 last year. He won 6th Man of the Year. I think he falls slightly this season. I think he's going to be right around the same type of player. I just don't think he's going to really progress, and maybe some guys below him have a better opportunity to play better this season. Number 2 is going to be Cam Whitmore. I think he's going to be amazing this season. He was 42 last year as a rookie. I think I think he improves a lot this year. He didn't really play a lot of minutes in a lot of games last season, so his numbers were kind of shorter or less because of that. I think he gets a good amount of time, playing time here. I think he's going to produce amazingly when he does get on the court. Number one is going to be Shaedon Sharpe. He's unranked last year. He was injured for most of the season. I think he's a good starter in this league. I think he'll be a top 15 at his position in this league. So off the bench, easily, in my opinion, is going to be the best bench player right now. That's going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back tomorrow. Will be my top 100 NBA players list. And if you haven't seen the rest of my ranking videos, please go watch those.